Hey guys, Amber Elise here. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I typically do a lot of natural hair videos, but I did get a request to do a video about what I did in each of my medical laboratory scientist rotations. So I do want to make sure that whenever I have any of you guys request me to do a video for that, I'm gonna make sure I try to do it depending on like what it's about. So currently I'm actually May will actually make 3 years since I've been an actual MLS at my current job. I'm thinking about filming a video right after this of what I do currently at my job. So I was requested to do this video, and if you guys have any other medical laboratory scientist request videos that you guys will want me to do, if I feel like it's within reason, then I'll go ahead and film that for you guys. And I have a video that's doing very well of how I passed my medical laboratory scientist test within the first try, and so I'll link that because that video is doing really well, and I've gotten a lot of success stories of you guys coming back telling me how my video really helped you guys prepare and study for that exam. So I'm always happy to help wherever I can, and so we're just gonna go ahead and get into it. So I did print off my notes because I didn't feel like carrying my laptop and kind of like looking down. I'm gonna have to look down, but I do have my notes. So I'm assuming if you guys are watching this video, you're either getting ready to go into your clinical rotations, or if you're just interested in this field in general and you're just kind of getting a overview of kind of the type of stuff that you'll actually be doing in this career field, then I guess that's another reason why you guys would be watching. I do want to say that I do love my career, and I call it a career because I can do so many more things than outside of just working in the lab. Some people go into IT. Of course, you can go into management positions. You can also switch to, if you're very hands-on and you really do like troubleshooting, you can also be a what do they call it, or what do we call it whenever we have to call in for service? Yeah, a service representative, where you come in and you actually service the machines whenever the machines break down, etc., etc. So I'm going to go ahead and start talking to you guys about my rotations. I did have 9 rotations in total. However, some of them, the explanation is going to be very short because I didn't really do much in it depending on what the section was. So I'm going to start with my favorite section of all, which is still currently my favorite section now. That is going to be hematology. So my hematology rotation was 3 weeks, and I loved hematology because it reminded me of a histology course that I took in undergrad. So that is one of the reasons that I think I was really drawn to hematology, was because I loved histology so much. It was the study, histology is the study of tissues, and hematology is the study of blood. So they are fairly similar, a lot of, you know, cell identification, stuff like that. So I really did enjoy it. As I mentioned, it was 3 weeks long. So my first week of hematology, we really just kind of went through kind of what I knew as far as hematology, just to kind of gauge where I was at. I loved my hematology instructor. She was the absolute best. And let me just say, let me just preface this. So a lot of my rotations, I actually was able to do them at like my current job. So the hospital that I work at, we have 4 branches actually, and they're kind of like, you know, spaced all throughout the city, and one is in our neighboring city. So I was able to do my hematology rotation at one of, I'm going to just call it like one of the sister hospitals, not at my actual current hospital. I did my chemistry rotation at the current hospital that I work at now, but we'll get to that. So the first week was me just kind of getting to know my instructor, her kind of gauging where I was as far as like my strengths and my weaknesses in hematology. We did a lot of smears as far as like, so the first week was me actually learning how to make a peripheral smear, and then going through a lot of training slides. So I actually did not get to learn how to do a peripheral smear in my actual class. and I don't really remember why, like what the explanation was as to why we didn't do that. I don't feel like it put me behind in any kind of way. You know, we had like lectures on how the peripheral smear needs to be made, making sure that you have one that's long enough but not too long and not too short, and definitely making sure you have a nice feathered edge. So it didn't really take me that long to learn how to make my peripheral smears, but I do feel like as I obviously became a real tech, my slides got better, and sometimes my slides aren't always the best, but I'm actually glad that I'm going to get to talk to you guys about what I currently do at my job. My branch actually focuses more on moms in the pediatric side, so we're one of the smaller locations as far as like busyness, so we actually have to make all of our smears by hand, and it's not really that bad. But I'm going to talk to you guys about that because now I'm getting excited to be able to actually share that with you guys. But I do still currently hand make my slides, and so that was one of the things that we learned at the beginning of our rotation, was making peripheral smears. And then they have an analyzer where there's stain, like the analyzer stains it, so we don't do any like manual staining, and just going through a lot of study slides. Another thing that I did, I think this kind of moved into a little bit of the second week, was I learned how to read body fluids using a hemocytometer. So in my rotation, in my actual program, I feel like my program was absolutely amazing, and it's definitely one of our top programs. We usually have about 100% pass rate for the students whenever they go through their clinical rotation or go through their program in general. Our pass rate is very high, but the instructor that I had, I don't think we were really taught how to use the hemocytometer. It was just like a one-time lab where we just got this worksheet, and she was like, don't worry about it because I won't test you guys on this. And I had no clue. I'm going to be honest, I had no clue what I was doing with the hemocytometer. So I was very nervous when it came to that in my rotation, because I knew that I personally wasn't comfortable using the hemocytometer. But as as my instructor in my actual clinical rotation went through everything with me, it was perfectly fine. So I do have to do cell counts here and there. I don't do a whole lot of them, but I am comfortable enough to know how to use the hemocytometer now. And you probably will use it. Some people say that they have analyzers that does their body fluids for them. I typically work with a lot of CSFs at night just because they don't do a lot of that kind of stuff at night. But I do other, I do come across other body fluids as well. So we did learn how to use the hemocytometer for cell counts. And also in this rotation, I did get to do a little bit of the computer side, but I didn't get to use it a lot because they were actually getting ready to go into a newer computer system around the time that I started my rotations. The old version that they used to use is Meditech, and what we use now is Meditech Expanse. So Meditech was just like, you basically plug in numbers and it takes you to whatever area of that computer system that you need. We still do use it a little bit for checking like histories at our hospital now, but Meditech Expanse is a lot more spelled out. So of course a lot of people liked Meditech, the old Meditech. I personally like Meditech Expanse a little bit better just because it's more colorful, and that's really the only other reason, because I did get to work a little bit with the old system. But like I said, it was a little bit faster because it was just kind of memorizing numbers to remember where to go. But as far as like a visual aspect of it, I like Meditech Expanse better. And that's what we use now. So I got to do a little bit of the computer side, but like I said, not a whole lot, because they didn't want to bother with training me on that or teaching me that, and they were getting ready to go into a new system. I also got to use the Cellavision, which we use DXH 900s. This is what my rotation was, and of course my job uses those as well. This particular hospital does a lot with cancer patients, and it is very it's one of the top hospitals for heart surgeries, or just like dealing with the heart in general. So they get a lot of specimens, so they don't have time to be making smears by hand. I can definitely tell you that, and staining either. So they use the DXH, and then they have a cell stainer, and it knows which ones, like it flags which ones needs to have an actual actual smear, so they don't have to go in and review anything, and then they just pull it off the machine. They look at it under the microscope if they need to, but they also use the Cell-O-Vision, and the Cell-O-Vision actually does the cell counts for them. So I think it's really cool, but sometimes you have to go in and review them because they get, like I said, they have a lot of cancer patients, so sometimes you have to move lymphocytes around, put them in the blast category and vice versa, promyelocytes, metamyelocytes, different stuff like that. But it does save them a lot of time because they don't have to manually do all of these diffs on their own. So that was something. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think it's called Tepra. I'm not 100% sure though, but I did get to set some of those up, and they had to have those sent to them by a certain time. I believe it was like before 1 o'clock, and then after that they didn't do them for the rest of the day. So that was pretty much it. As far as my hematology rotation, like I said, I really loved my instructor. She's absolutely the best. She's still our go-to for whenever we get like difficult slides that we aren't comfortable with. Sometimes we'll send them off to her. So hats off to her. Absolutely loved learning under her. Now we're going to go ahead and start talking about my chemistry rotation. And fun fact, I actually did my chemistry rotation at my current hospital that I work at, because by that time I had already gotten the position to work at this particular location. So they went ahead and scheduled my chemistry rotation, because my chemistry rotation was actually my last rotation of my clinicals. So they were nice enough to go ahead and let me do my rotation there. So the first week was really just me learning a little bit of the computer side, learning how to kind of like receive batch specimens off that need to be sent to other sites. And also I was able to learn the processing area. So I would go through the bags, you know, separate everything out, take it to whatever section, know what to spin and what not to spin, what needs to be sent off, what stays at the lab. So that put me ahead when I actually got ready to start training, because a lot of that computer part as far as like receiving stuff like that, printing tickets, I was already aware how to do it, because I got that head start. And then, like I said, by this time they had gone into the new system, so I was getting a chance to learn that new system along with them, because it was still fairly new for them. So again, I was able to get a little bit of a head start on the computer side, and it didn't feel as overwhelming because they were learning with me. So it wasn't like I was too far behind with the computer system, because nobody really knew it all the way at that point. So that was another good thing. So another thing that I got to do was work on our analyzers. We use the Vitros analyzers, and I was able to get a little bit of hands-on, like, you know, manually loading, manually programming. Well, everything is manually loaded, but loading, doing a lot of programming whenever I needed to program specimens. I was able to do a little bit of the daily maintenance, because that's actually something that I have to do on my on my shift, because I actually work the night shift. So we do all of the maintenance at night. So they saved a lot of that stuff for me to be able to do, just so I can kind of get familiar with it. But there was another thing that I did in my rotation, and of course just watching the chemistry people do like their weekly maintenance. I didn't really get shown a lot of like the paperwork side, because that just wasn't important. But I did get to kind of see what their everyday was as far as the day shift, and that's pretty much really all I did in my chemistry rotation, because my chemistry rotation was only 2 weeks. So like I said, it was the last 2 weeks of my clinical rotations, and then I took my exam, and then once I took my exam I started working full time. So that's pretty much all I did in chemistry, not a whole lot. And that's pretty much the basis of what I got to do. We're actually getting ready to get some new chemistry analyzers, so I'll talk to you guys about that in my next video, which I'm very excited to talk to you guys about, because I get to go a little bit deeper into what I actually do now currently. Like I said, this is just about my actual rotations. So my next one was UA, and this only lasted a week, and honestly thank God it did, because UA to me, I don't want to say that it's underwhelming, but it's not really like a whole lot. So we were getting a lot of updates, like a lot of new stuff, because I did my urinalysis rotation at my current, not at my current job. I did this at my school, the hospital that my school is connected with, and but where I work, we were getting ready to get new urinalysis analyzers. So I think at the time they were using the I forget what it's called. I'll have to pop it up on the screen, but I'm actually glad we switched from that, because I didn't like how the analyzer looked. So I didn't ever have to get trained on it, because they were getting ready to go to something new. But we currently use the Sysmex analyzers. So it was only 1 week. I pretty much just reviewed old CAP samples and like photos for identification. So we would go through, he would kind of find a way to somehow preserve these CAP surveys that we get, and like look at different crystals like cysteine, just whatever, calcium oxalate, whatever he was able to preserve. I looked at some of those under the microscope, and then there were also photo identification. I'll talk to you guys a little bit more about what CAP is, and like CAP surveys that you'll have to do, because you'll definitely have to be doing those once you actually become a tech. I was also shown how to use their UA analyzer, and I believe they used a Siemens or like the Sysmex analyzer, but it was a little bit different from the ones that I currently use at my job. And I was able to learn how to determine whether a sample needed to be spun down for manual review, just based off of the flags that it threw, and also just kind of learning what can go on the analyzer and what can't go on the analyzer. So things like, you definitely don't want to put anything that's too cloudy and milky looking, or thick, because that definitely can cause clogs and stuff in the analyzer. So that's very important, and I did get to learn a lot of that kind of stuff. And then I also had to do, like, there was a allotted number of actual manual UAs that I had to do, and I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, I think it was like 20. So there were 20 actual samples that I actually had to do just to be checked off for that section. Like I said, y'all, UA is not one of my favorite sections. I don't hate UA, I just don't think it's, like I said, it's very underwhelming to me. But that's just my personal opinion. You know, honestly, I enjoy it here and there, but I don't like having to spin down urines. I'll be honest, it's not my favorite thing to do. I wish all of them could just be read on the analyzer, and I would be perfectly fine if I never had to spin another urinalysis sample down, but you know, it is what it is. So that's pretty much all I did in that rotation. And then on my last day, I took a written exam. So all of my clinical rotations, let me just add, at the end I did have to take a written exam. And then the last thing in UA, I want to mention that they did show me like a gout sample, so just kind of being able to look at those uric crystals and stuff like that. But we don't get a lot of that at my job. I don't even think we actually do it at my particular site. So yeah, that's pretty much all I did for the urinalysis section. And the urinalysis and Coag was actually attached together. So most labs, you have your hematology, your urinalysis, and your Coag sections are kind of all intertwined. Just what I've noticed, at least in my area, that's how it is. And Coag, like I said, it was literally a part of my UA rotation, and honestly, I didn't learn a thing because I didn't get shown anything. I don't even honestly think that that was like considered a rotation, to be fair. I don't think that there was actually a rotation. So that was pretty much it. And unless I'm remembering it incorrectly, I want to say that it was not a rotation, because like I said, I didn't learn anything. I wasn't even really shown hardly anything. So that's the basis of Coag. Just throwing it out there. Now next was blood bank, and I think blood bank was really interesting because of a lot of the stuff that we got to do. So I kind of traveled around to 3 sites for my blood bank rotation. So it started off at my hospital that my school is connected to, and the first week we pretty much just learned how to run QC on all of the reagents, making sure that everything was still in date. And then, like I said, running daily QC, which is manual QC with like the tubes and stuff like that. So that was the first week. We also did a lot of PowerPoints. We had to go through a lot of PowerPoints with my instructor, and honestly, as much as I hated it, it was good, because it was like kind of like a refresher, and just kind of like touching up, making sure that you know the stuff that you're actually supposed to know. So no, this is no like dig to my instructor or anything like that. I actually definitely think that it was beneficial, but by that time, y'all, with studying and everything, I was so just burned out that I did not enjoy having to go through the PowerPoints, but we thoroughly went through those PowerPoints, and I am thankful that we did. She showed us how to use their analyzer, and they use the Vision. We use the Echolumina at my current job. So just compared to that, like, I didn't get a lot of hands-on experience with it, but I do remember them kind of like showing us how the Vision works. Then I actually donate blood, so we were able to go to the donation center that I actually donated, and we pretty much got to get a run through of everything from when they collect the blood all the way to like how things are processed. So showing us, you know, like the platelets and the platelet rockers, the testing for BAC-T. We were shown, you know, where they keep the plasma, where they keep blood. They also have a section where they keep CEK negative units for like sickle patients. We have one patient in particular. I don't think she lives in my area, but she's Bombay, so she has to do like, you know, donations for herself. I think is that autologous donation, and where she is basically getting blood drawn from her as if she's going to donate it to someone else, but they actually freeze it, and I believe that they hold it for 10 years, but I think she kind of comes and does regular donations just in case, and they freeze it, they hold it, so if she ever needs it, then she will be able to donate to herself. If you are not familiar with what Bombay is, I'm hoping that you do know this if you are actually in the program. But if you're just watching this video because you want to get a better gauge at kind of, you know, what this is, what this whole career is about, Bombay is when you don't have a blood type technically. So, you know, you have O, A, B, A, and B, and they don't have the H antigen. So the H antigen is what actually helps. Well, the H antigen is what gives you your blood type. If you have H, it is like a part of the step of whether you will present as A, B, O, or AB. Well, Bombay, they don't have the H antigen, so we can't call them O, because if they had the H antigen and they had everything else that branches off for O, then they would be considered O. So if you give a Bombay person type, because they're going to test in the tube as O. So if you mistakenly give them type O, they will have a reaction. So that's just a little bit too far off deep and off track of what I was doing in my rotation, but I just threw that little spiel in there just in case you guys were interested and you were wanting to know a little bit more about that. But yeah, so we got to see where they keep that kind of stuff. We also got to watch them do a lot of the testing. So whenever we come into a problem where we can't actually work out at our own lab, we send it off to this particular area, this particular blood donation center, and they have people that, you know, do elutions and all of that kind of stuff. So we don't actually have the reagents and stuff at our job to be able to do it, so we don't do that kind of stuff. Whenever people have warm autos, all of that stuff gets figured out there. And of course, the more uncommon and more difficult antibodies and stuff to isolate. So we got to see a little bit of that. They showed us a lot of different stuff. Like, I can't even remember half of it. In my rotation, we did get to do our blood type. I already knew what my blood type was, but of course, you know, I want to see it in the tube. So we got to do that. And that's pretty much, I think that's really a lot of what we did in blood bank. And so yeah, that's pretty much it. And then like I said, of course, at the end of every rotation, we did have an exam. So that's pretty much what I did in my blood bank rotation. I actually went to 3 sites. So again, the sister, as I said, I'm going to call it the sister hospital to where I work. I went to that. I went and I spent about a week there as well, and I got to do, like I said, a lot of the computer stuff. I got to do some cross matches. I got to do QC there as well, and so it was really nice. I feel like I loved blood bank because it was very hands-on. We got to do a lot of hands-on stuff, so it wasn't just like sitting listening to a lot of talking outside of those PowerPoints that I mentioned to you guys. I think blood bank was very interesting, so we got to do that. And yeah, that's pretty much what I did in my rotation. So the next one is microbiology. Now microbiology was my second favorite rotation to do, and micro was 5 weeks. So the first 4 weeks was actually micro, and then the last week was parasitology and mycology. So COVID was still fairly high during that time, so we learned how to set up, so I learned how to set up COVID tests. I did a little bit of their computer side, not a whole lot. I performed QC every day, which basically consisted of me setting up blood agar plates and chocolate plates. So I pretty much had to I am blanking right now. I set up the plates. I can't even think of what it's called, but basically pretty much where you're getting it to where it isolates. So you know, you start off real heavy and then you move to the next session, and you kind of, I have to put it on the screen, y'all, because actually in my current job I don't actually have to set up plates, so I'm forgetting the name of some stuff, but that's pretty much what I did as far as QC. They did show me how to do sensitivity QC, but that was very, very intricate, so I didn't do that like on my own. I just kind of watched them do that, and I don't remember the name of what they used, so I'll just throw it out there. I did get to see the Bactec machines, which is where they put the blood cultures in to detect if there's any organisms growing aerobically or anaerobically. I also was shown the wasp, and their wasp is their automated way of doing what it is that I cannot remember right now. I'm gonna put a picture up here, and I'm also gonna put the name of what it is, because I can't believe I'm spacing out right now. But they have an automated, thank God they have it, because with all of the plates that they have to set up, it's a little bit, it would be a little bit too much. And then they showed me of course how to do like the reading of the plates and pretty much the steps of kind of where they start and how they move to be able to isolate organisms and identify them. And every Friday I had a written test. So in this rotation it was a little bit different, because I actually got grades in these rotations as well. So we had assignments too throughout the rotation. But well, we had rotations, like our program gave us assignments to make sure that we were staying up on top of everything. But then we also would have like tests in the rotations as well. Micro was the only one where I had a test every single Friday, and I pretty much just did like practical type stuff. So there were written exams, and then the end test for me was written mixed with practical. So I got a lot of practice with the plates, so like the blood agar, the chocolate, the McConkey, the EMBs, that kind of stuff. And that's pretty much another interesting thing that I got to do was I got to participate in their huddles. So their huddles used to be like about 15 minutes every day. We actually do those at my current job. I don't participate in them because I work the night shift, but when I do overtime or when I worked during the day, we did have 15-minute huddles, or sometimes they were shorter than that. It just depends on what they have going on and what they need us to know. So that's pretty much it. So a lot of the things that I did, we had to learn micro flow charts, and this was in my actual program. So we didn't use them a whole lot, but they were definitely helpful in determining what was the next steps in micro. So we would do like, I would start off with, is it coagulase positive or coagulase negative, and then that would help me determine what step to go through next. Of course, the isolation of whenever I would go and do the set up my place for isolation, you can kind of look at the texture of some of these organisms and say, I think this is this, but of course you still have to do the actual testing for it. I'm trying to think of what other type of testing that we did to be able to determine stuff. Y'all, it's been a minute, and like I said, I don't work in micro, so it's been a while, but just that kind of stuff. And then of course making my gram stains to make my final determination of what I thought the organism was. So that was pretty much micro. Mycology and parasitology, I didn't do a whole lot. I did get to do of course they showed me, I think I got to see like penicillin and aspergillus under the microscope. I got to do, I can't even remember what it was, but I think it was like sputum specimens that I got to set up under the hood. I don't remember specifically what we were looking for, but I got to do a little bit of that. I did a lot of studying in this rotation because honestly there just wasn't a lot for us to do in that particular rotation, and it was only 1 week. And I got to see some TB, like the acid fast stains. I think that's like the Zeal-Nielsen stain. And then the Auramine, I think it's like Auramine O, which it kind of like fluoresces under the microscope to be able to determine if a patient has tuberculosis. So that's kind of like the gist of what I did in mycology and parasitology. I'm getting towards the end of this video now. I did have a flow in a molecular rotation, and this one was a little bit even more underwhelming than urinalysis for me. I don't care much about flow cytometry and like the molecular side of things, so I did very little in this rotation as well. I think it was only a week. I did a lot, like I said, I did a lot of studying and working on assignments, and I'm even having to read this because I don't even hardly remember what I did in this rotation. The flow room was just kind of like this dark room where we kind of like looked at stuff under the microscope for like you know, like genetic mutations and stuff. I'm not gonna act like I knew exactly what I was looking at, but you know, they showed us how they pair chromosomes, stuff like that. Molecular was a lot more tedious because there was a lot of pipetting going on to this, and everything that they did pretty much was manual. So I don't remember them having a lot of automated machines for this molecular testing. So that was definitely something that I knew I was not going to be interested in, just because I mean that you have to be very precise with a lot of that stuff, and one wrong thing can ruin the entire test cartridge and stuff like that. So that was molecular. And I was also shown like histology samples, how they go in and kind of like slice and prep the slides. But that's about the basis of what I remember for that rotation. So like I said, not a whole lot. It was interesting, but not interesting enough for me to really want to do it. And then my last rotation was business management. So for any of you guys looking to or aspiring to become higher up in management at some point, whether that's like if you want to be a lead tech, if you want to be a supervisor, if you want to be a lab manager, or even if you want to be a director, this is the rotation for you, which we didn't do a lot. It was a lot of studying and working on assignments, pretty much is all I did. I did get to spend like a little bit of time with the lab director, kind of discussing what, you know, her job entails. I spent a day with the person that was over the phlebotomist. So he wasn't the lead, so they weren't the lead phlebotomist, they were just over the phlebotomist, if that makes sense. So I was taken all over the campus to go to the different areas, like draw stations and stuff, and just kind of keep up with them, see what they were doing. I really enjoyed this part of this instructor was the best, because I was able to move around. Like, I don't like sitting and just having, like, just talking to me. I don't like that. That's, you know, boring to me. But he was really good. So I did get to see that. He also kind of showed me like different PowerPoints and stuff that he has to put together whenever they have meetings, and he has to discuss draw times and turnaround time, all of that kind of stuff. So I got to see a little bit of what his job entailed, and that's pretty much it. As far as what I did in my rotations, I don't really remember having a exam in my business rotation, or business management rotation. So that's pretty much it. I hope that this gave you guys some insight of what you may potentially be doing in your rotations. I enjoyed clinicals for the most part. Like I said, there were certain rotations that were a little bit more underwhelming than others. If I had to do like a top 3, I would say my favorite, of course I told you guys, was hematology, but micro and blood bank would probably be my other 2 favorites. I liked chemistry too. I did enjoy chemistry, so those would probably be like the top 4 of all of the ones that I did. If you guys have any other questions, please do not hesitate to leave them down. I'm very passionate about what I do. I love my job. I love my career. I love being hands-on with, like, you know, the patient samples and stuff like that. I take it very seriously. So If you guys have any questions, please do leave them down in the comment section below. If you guys haven't seen my video of how I passed my my medical laboratory sciences board exam, go ahead and check that out. I will link it down in the description as well. I respond to pretty much any and everybody that comments on that, just because this is such a hidden field and I want to be able to help you guys as much as possible and give as much information as possible as well. So if you want to know, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to leave them down, because I will in fact get back with you guys. I do read all of my comments, and I'm always just, I like to be able to, you know, see where you guys are on your journey and answer any questions that I can, you know, within my realm of knowledge. So if you enjoyed this video, like I said, I'm getting ready to film that video because I'm really excited to talk about that now. Once I got to talking about this, I was like, I have to tell you guys what I do on my shift now. So and just kind of like my experience overall within, like I said, it's about to be year 3 for me. So that's pretty much going to conclude this video. If I didn't answer anything, like I said, leave it down in the comment section. If you have any questions, leave it down in the comment section. And that's pretty much it. So I do want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you like this video, please do give me a big thumbs up. Feel free to share this video with anybody that's looking for any type of job in the healthcare field, or any of your MLS friends that, you know, may need to see this video. Feel free to share it with them. And that's pretty much going to be it. So thank you guys again so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.